Welcome to Jerusalem, sunrise stroll and chat this morning. It's going to be glorious. It's already glorious. It's the first day of the week. People are off to work. They had a lovely, refreshing Shabbat rest. Something very healthy for all of us to take a day off and be refreshed and ready to go back into action. You know, it's a great wisdom in the way we're built and the way nature is built, that we have to go to sleep and rest and leave it in the hands of the good Lord. There's a wonderful story about Pope John the 23rd. You know, that lovely smiling Pope that won the world's hearts back in the late 50s, early 60s. He's the first Pope I remember. And he when he would go to bed at night, they say he slept, there was next door, there was a tabernacle. And he'd knock on the wall and he'd say, "Good night, Lord. This is your church. I'm going to sleep." "Good night, Lord. I entrust the children to you, Lord. These are your children. I need to get some rest." Putting everything, all our responsibilities in God's hands. So we just heard a great burst of bells for Sunday morning. This was a pigeon that just flew by, or a dove. Wanted to check out the camera, but took off in a hurry. So there's the sun over the Mount of Olives, shining between those two towers of Augusta Victoria on the left, the wife of Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany. It's a hospital it's a very important cancer treatment facility for the Palestinians in the West Bank especially, and they come there to be treated, and at least that's what I've understood years gone by. And then here is the church tower of the Ascension. Russian Orthodox sisters their community lives there. And to the right of that, there's the church of the Pater Noster, the Our Father. You see, Pater Noster. And there's a cave there, one of many caves that are in the whole region. And they say this would have been a place where Jesus would have gathered with his disciples. And there's actually a very early church was built there. And there's some details of that still left from Byzantine times. Helena built one of the three big churches she built here in the area, one in Bethlehem, one here at the Holy Sepulchre, and one on the Mount of Olives. And the Mount of Olives in Greek is Eleona, so it was called the church, the Eleona Church, the Mount of Olives Church at that time. So here's the Holy Sepulchre right in front of our eyes, and we're celebrating the resurrection of Christ. And every Sunday, that's the purpose of every Sunday, the first day of the week, to celebrate the resurrection. Christ risen from the dead. We need this victory over death. We need this victory over sin, over violence, over hatred. There's another solution to life that we don't make, that's given to us, just like life itself is given to us, actually. So there's beautiful sunrise over our beloved Jerusalem, our home. Everyone was born here. It's Psalm 87, you know. One person says to another, everybody was born in Jerusalem. People, when the pilgrims come here, they feel so at home. So we always say, welcome home. You can hear the traffic cranking up for the first day of the week. So today we have very strong words. We always do. I very often do. Lots of strong words. And today Jesus says, I'm going up to Jerusalem. He's on the move. Just like all these people are on the move. And none of us can be still in life. We're never stopped. We're always on the move. And that move is not just physical. It's actually also spiritual growth. And Jesus is moving into spiritual high gear with the apostles. And they've seen a lot of miracles. They've heard a lot of wonderful teaching. And he wants to move them on to the next level. And this happens in our lives also. And the words are very strong. So there's a lot of confidence. Last Sunday, Peter has said to Jesus, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus, increases the joy of that moment by saying to him, "It was not you who said this, it was my heavenly Father who revealed it to you." And because of this, on this rock I will build my church. You are a rock, you are Peter. So Peter is in a very strong position now. And therefore, when Jesus comes along with his moving into high gear, into the next level, let's climb this stairway, Peter says no. He uses all his leverage to say no. Never, Lord, let that never happen to you. You're talking about going up to Jerusalem to suffer and to be crucified? Get that idea out of your head. Let me share something with you that's kind of, it's a very sensitive issue. And it happens not so seldom. In fact, it's been happening the last number of weeks with a very, I would say, good friend, an Anglican, actually a priest. And his wife is very sick and has been for decades. And is in a very critical condition. And we've prayed for her, I've prayed also. And she had incredible intensive operations. But we have such need to get everything fixed in this world. And obviously it's terribly hard for a man who loves his wife to see his wife suffering. Terribly hard for parents to see their child suffering. Terribly hard for all of us to see a terrorist attack or just even a natural catastrophe, a mudslide, and hundreds of people's homes are washed down into the valley. Dealing with suffering. Somebody has sciatic nerve. It's terrible. And Jesus is saying to the disciples, you got to take up your cross and follow me if you want to be my disciple. If you want to be part of this resurrection glory, of this sunrise for humanity, right here at the Holy Sepulchre, there's a path to this. And that's the path of the cross. And so some people are scared about following Jesus or letting the level ratchet up. The maturity of the soul, the growth. They are very scared about this. Very scared. And we imagine the worst. And because of this, we actually limit ourselves also. We hamper our spiritual growth. So it's very important to listen to the coach. And he says, if you want to be my disciple, come follow me. And there are a lot of preliminary steps on the way. And let's start with the very basic ones. What about the arrogant person who's domineering, who imposes on others, who pushes people around? That guy doesn't want to hear about taking up your cross. So the first step is humility. An extraordinary humility. And we all grow a little bit in that, even against our will. We grow in humility against our will, imagine. Because we discover we didn't make the world, we don't change the time of the sunrise, there's things we don't do. There's things we can't do. There's things that are outside of our control. We learn humility. And then another great path is a path of service and charity and kindness. And the first word of charity is patience. Charity is patient. So if charity is patient, then it's something that's not nice, that I have to put up with. So there's a great experience there with just these virtues, humility and charity. And before even we start talking about the cross, there's another big one. Look at all those birds. There's another big one, and that is purity. And you know, this is very, very, very much for today, because we live in a time of incredible sexual indulgence. And in the entertainment fields, in the internet, it's a huge industry. Imagine using that word for that, it's amazing. And it's billions and billions of dollars. So there's a lot of people pushing it because there's a human weakness. But before we even start thinking about taking up our cross and following Jesus, it's about the indulgence that's destroying us. Indulging in pleasures which seem to be our fulfillment but are actually our destruction. So before ever thinking about being crucified as a disciple of Christ, you know, follow me and take up your cross and deny yourself, there's a lot of small stuff along the way first. And this is all part of human growth. Lord, you know, I need to hear your words. Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and greatly suffer from the elders, the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. Then Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. God forbid, Lord, no such thing shall ever happen to you. Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. You know, to think as God does is actually to view the world with faith. Faith. Faith is seeing the world through God's eyes. Faith is seeing a sunrise and knowing it's a huge gift. Behind every gift there's a giver. And faith recognizes that. Faith recognizes that there's much more meaning in life than the next sandwich, than the next trip overseas. And the coronavirus also has taught us a lot about cutting back. We've been forced to. We didn't choose to. It was imposed upon us. Our world has changed. Our world has changed, people, a lot. And we can gain a lot from that. So that was the 6:30 bell here at the Franciscan Church. So Jesus goes on to tell the disciples, whoever wishes to come after me, who follow me, must deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Rhetorically, very, very strong language. You know, Jesus putting it out there very clearly. What profit would there be for a person to gain the whole world and forfeit life? And what can one give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man will come with his angels in his Father's glory, and then he will repay all according to his conduct. There are a lot of themes interwoven here. It's really about the whole mystery of life. It's all about our ambitions, about what we aspire to. And we were made for paradise, but, you know, like Milton wrote, Paradise Lost. But then there's another word, Paradise Regained. And so we have this longing for paradise, and we try to make it ourselves. And one of the real big contents of the Messiah, the Redeemer, the Savior, you know, the Church of the Redeemer, the Church of the Savior, the Messiah, the Christ, the Anointed One. the message he brought was, I want to go to the light. I want to re-establish paradise, but the path is through the cross. And there's an interesting proverb in Latin about this, which sounds, it's catchy. The word for cross in Latin is crux. We often say the crux of the matter, right? And the word for light is lux. You even have that word in the genitive is lucis, and for crux it's crucis. And you have lucis and you have lucent technologies, lucent, illuminate, these words are there, lux. So via is like the tranvia, the train, the via maris, the via appia, the via aurelia. Via is the path, the way. And so you have via crucis, the way of the cross. And so the proverb goes like this: via crucis, via lucis. The way of the cross is the way of light, the way to light. And so, how can you get anywhere in life? You can't get good results in an exam by going to the movies all the time unless you're a movie student. And you can't build a house without sweating and saving and sacrificing. And you can't win an Olympic medal without about 6 hours daily of exercise for 4 hours daily of exercise for 6 years, plus diet. So many restrictions, so many intensive efforts to win an Olympic medal. Via Crucis Via Lucis. To get to the light is a path of the cross, of self-denial. And we can start off with the basics, with the humility, with the servant leadership, the charity, the patience, with the purity, denying indulgence. Because then when a sacrifice has to be made, we're ready to do it, we're fit. We're able to run that 100 yards in a sprint. We can take that sacrifice. And sacrifices and sufferings usually aren't big persecutions like happened to some Christians, and there are still crucifixions in our world in our own lifetime. But the sacrifices are at home with the sick child, the sick parent, the sick spouse, and the illness and difficulties can be anywhere. They can be physically, broken leg, crutches, rehabilitation, going to doctors, driving through traffic, delayed, got a big tractor in front of you so you can't go faster, So you have all these little things in life. That's where we meet the cross. And we meet it in denying ourselves. And we don't have to be scared by it. We just knuckle down and do the study, because there's an exam coming. And if I just go out and have ice cream and chat with my friends in the mall, when's the exam going to be done? How is it going to be? How am I going to get a job? Got to prepare for the interview. Got to do good work. Constantly, faithfully. What a big challenge in life. There's a wonderful line in Jeremiah, and Jeremiah was here in Jerusalem. He's one of the prophets that really lived here with different kings, and he was given a horrible time, and he had a very tough life. And the words he uses today are very helpful in all of this. He says, "You duped me, O Lord, and I let myself be duped." Well, actually, that's a kind of a euphemism in America. The words that he uses are very graphic. "You seduced me, Lord." And I let myself be seduced. Jesus said, "Learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart." So it's also interesting with God that he doesn't overpower us in a domineering way, but through grace he wins our heart to accept. And if you notice through your life how you have changed, so many changes. When you were that teenager, with your passions, your envies, your desires, your jealousies, your vanities. And where are you today? And you've grown an awful lot. And you didn't grow there, it wasn't easy. It's a path of growth. Maybe many of you are parents and raised children, begot children, gave birth to children. That's not easy. The pregnancy with the morning sickness and all of that, and it's not easy for anybody in the house when the spouse and the mom is going through a rough time, because she's usually the fountain of life, and now she's kind of tethered by her illness. So, and inside our hearts there's a process going on when we learn to recognize the reality and we adjust to reality, and that's also humility. And we learn to be kind and to be patient, and that's a process. And we also learn to lift up our eyes from the dirt and to be noble and clean and pure. And not to be selfish. And then he goes through another problem. Jeremiah says, all the day I am the object of laughter. Everyone mocks me. Now, it's bad enough if one person mocks me, because I have a couple of friends that say, no, you're okay. Don't worry about that guy, he's a bit strange. Everybody mocks me. Wow, where do I turn? I'm the laughing stock of the people. And then we have another level of the cross when we're given a mission that's very difficult. Imagine somebody, a new manager has to go into an area of work where there are tons of problems, but people are set in their ways and they don't want to change. So then Jeremiah says, whenever I speak, I must cry out. Outrage is my message. The word of the Lord has brought me derision and reproach all the day. And yet he let himself be seduced by the Lord. So the Lord has given him a very tough task to teach a rebellious people. Imagine in Jerusalem at the time they were doing human sacrifices. It's there in the book of Jeremiah. You can read it in, I think it's 19 and 29. Sacrificing here in the Gehenna Valley, just here on the other side of Jerusalem. Very strong lines. It's actually in all the prophets, in Isaiah as well. In the Psalms it's mentioned. I'm not sure if it's I think Psalm 106 around the verses 30 if I remember correctly. And Jeremiah is calling it out. And people don't like it. Just think of the sufferings for the pro-life movement today, to call out if somebody lines up with pro-life, if a politician lines up with pro-life, they're crucified. They're attacked. It's amazing. These are very tough themes, you know. So when we go out to address injustice, when we feel compelled and a mission from the Lord to deal with very problematic issues, then it's a rough going. And that's what happened to Jesus. He called out hypocrisy in leadership, corruption, self-serving, lack of service to the people. You impose burdens but don't lift a finger to help. And this obviously is a very tough role for parents to call out children, or a spouse to find the gentle way to call out their spouse. And it's not protesting in the market square, it's just maybe even in their bedroom, in the kitchen. And it's a difficult conversation that needs to be approached. And it's important there to have great humility and great charity and great kindness, and that love is the first part. You dupe me and I let myself be duped. You seduce me and I let myself be seduced. And then there's this huge difficult mission, how in that whole context of love to carry the cross. And this is it about following Jesus. Jesus calls us to love him, and when we love him we can carry the cross. Follow me, come follow me. You're my intimate companion. I share my heart completely with you. Join me in this mission, and we're going to overcome death together. And here's the Holy Sepulchre. Imagine Mary Magdalene there on Good Friday at Calvary, and the other women. It was the women that were there at the cross. The women are very strong when it comes to the cross. They're very, very faithful. And Jeremiah speaks about that burden. I wanted not to speak anymore, but it became like fire in my heart, imprisoned in my bones. I cannot endure it. So he's going through a tremendous crisis. That's the cross in life. We all have those moments. This is part of life, and it's part of maturity, and it's part of holiness, and it's part of eternal joy. To enter eternal joy via Crucis Via Lucis, we get to the light through the cross. And because we're resurrection people, we can have the strength for that, because it's given to us. And the amazing thing then is here in Jerusalem we have that witness of Stephen forgiving those who were stoning him to death. That interior victory. So as tough as the cross is, there's extraordinary joy when it's recognized, embraced, accepted, embraced. There's triumph. And that's in all of our lives. May the Lord bless you, keep you safe, fill you with joy this Sunday. Share the joy of the resurrection today, your family, with your joy, your smiles, your goodness in your homes. Calling up a friend who's lonely. Spread the joy. God bless you from Jerusalem on this glorious Sunday morning.